That's pretty creative. Few case arguments or concede our Taylor evidence indicates that government action is good and inevitable in the context of the environment. Our evidence indicates that bioregionalism we're waiting to around and individually rethinking and doing nothing but not solve the environment because these are collective action plans. Our very evidence indicates that environmental management is inevitable. It's a question of how we are going to intervene. Interventions are inevitable, and past interventions have messed up the environment. If we just simply quit doing anything, the environment would inevitably deteriorate because they conceded a whole host of reasons why it'll happen. As far as Lewis evidence indicates the alternative doesn't solve because any time we take individual approach, it ignores that the government must do it. Individualized approaches also like concrete solutions are necessary for change. Alternative also forecloses political action, which proves the political action is the only way that we can necessarily solve. Our Berliner evidence indicates that managerialism solves extinction. Prefer this evidence about 5 years will remain there. Peace evidence indicates that intrusion is the only way to solve for the environment because the environment will naturally deteriorate. Itself, Callahan evidence indicates that you cannot simply wish away environmental harm, so you must have concrete solutions for us. Also prefer all the specificity of the 1AC solvency evidence, which they have functionally conceded, which means you would prefer this evidence at the end of the round because it talks about what the plan text does and not doing nothing. And their argument only assumes the trend to reduce suffering will consume all of human existence. The project of helping people can't exist in balance is an essential life and human will. This is an answer that their dynamics Conway 99. Nietzsche was mistaken, supposing that it was contrary to the interest of an individual to feel sympathy in a world which does contain the one or response something that contains is not individuals open to sympathetic identification to suffering now. Two, he revolted this mistake once one is impoverished by substance and getting married entitled to more trust in life, and that Nietzsche pities the part of function of intention will we attend as a function of our will breaker. Can I get a pin that is only one where people disengage themselves from in pursuit of personal projects there can be scope for a degree of pity and sort of that give rise to denial and attitude of sympathy as a benefit and not a bane. And politics is always messy, contested, and co-optable. Fear these conditions as anti-political life, and I hate to have in 95 and the actual practice of human politics always be elements of passion, power, ambition, strife, and so on. Their presence is not automatic degradation, but rather inclination of political life. To complete the one must sell out when we get into politics, loaded, ultimately anti-political gesture, or single activist who compromise who fails inside the political room is still worth more than 1,000 cynics or fears of fears, more license, silence, and excessive fear conceptions of politics. And I help as well the denial of politics and individualized ethics to not create collective change. Alternative results of quietism. Luke, their author in 97 DP, called the gesture caught up in the trap of endorsing new code utopias, but they deny practical work and political action displaced into the realm of ethical ideas, making every individual's moral duty to change himself or herself and advancing culture change without the opportunity to change collective action. This personal moral regeneration might become only a quietistic postmodern Taoism finding the right path in evil society. Such principles have little practical utility for ancient ecological revolution, and Luke concludes that institutional change is necessary to stop extinction. Their alternative fails. Luke and I only the actions of those insignificant persons of decisive managerial power and government can truly do something to determine the future belief of thousands of readers will replace their light bulbs with toilets with ecologically improved alternatives can decisively affect their survival. Species of pure ideology. It may sell new kinds of toilets, but it does not guarantee planetary survival. And their do-nothing alternative makes it impossible for them to solve any of their impact claims, eliminate all their offense. The ASA point is there's a terminal flaw in the text of their alternative. They wrote the text as do-nothing. The McWhorter, any type of their alternative evidence is based on a misquote of Heidegger's do-nothing alternative. Heidegger's alternative is not do-nothing, it is do-nothing. But wait, all their alternative evidence that they read in the 1NC is based off doing nothing, and then eventually reconceptualizing ethic. Fiat is durable, you should hold them to their our argument here. B, which means that they endorse the alternative doing nothing is durable. It's the same as the plan durable. Fiat is essential to prevent teams from abuse strategies like claiming their athletes roll back and return arguments they're stuck with doing nothing for the future. That means that even if a crisis allowed us to come up with a new way of thinking in the future, they cannot enact it because they're so locked into the action of doing nothing. Even if they were able to change the meaning of the alt to include waiting, they have no ability to act on it to find out the waiting. C is they cannot change the text of the alternative to legitimate the app change of the plan. And B2AC including allows the permutation to do the alternative. And D supports multi-actor, single agent actor. Fiat is bad. They can't fiat everyone in the world to let it be, and if they do, they still can't trick multinational corporations if they can't fiat. It's the only reason that the permutation would eventually solve, because if they have everybody in the world quit harming the environment, the permutation do both, which I'll make now indicates that we would be able to solve for the entire environmental construction. The output of energy is good by showing how current institutions are fallible. You analyze the social change rates and ethos of prevent the foresight curve. Psalm 104, the significance of foresight direct outcome of the transition toward this utopian imaginary, this catastrophic sensibility need not imply despondency paralysis or fear. Quite the opposite impact, since the pervasiveness of this utopian imaginary can help notions of historical contingency and fallibilism in traction to determine this absolute counterprinciple to recognize the future is uncertain, and that equals action produces both unintended and unexpected consequences of responsibility to face up to potential disasters intervenable before the strike. The come from howling, and it's impossible to do nothing in the environment. Our very existence impacts on the environment as a form of management. We must figure out ways of acting that minimize the effect of our existence on the environment. Historical examination of ecosystems allows us to do so. Bowman, one, land managers can choose the enormous complexity of landscape change as an excuse not to act with this strategy. Ignores a basic lesson from environmental history that it's impossible to do nothing in dynamic systems. Most basic global land management should be to minimize the rate of species extinction and to maintain or restore ecosystem services such as potable water and degraded landscapes. Historical perspective provides an important context to the time market declines of species population, ecosystem functioning, and cultural change. And you can see the science too broadly. Ecological science is the science that escapes the traps of scientific thinking. So its perfection is critical to achieving a cooperative harmonious balance between science and non-science, which in 85 we have seen the assimilation of the once liberatory scientists by the established social order. We have the general science itself as essential to control this distrust Science is not without justification. There's one science that yet may restore and even transcend the liberatory state of the traditional science of philosophies. Ecology, the investigation of total relations of animal to inorganic environment. Ecology deals with the balance of nature, the explosive implication of ecological approach to the rest, not only because ecology is intrinsically a critical science, but also because of an integrated and reconstructive science that it's impossible to achieve a harmonization of people and nature without creating a human community that lives in a lasting balance with the natural environment. And environmental ethics will fail in the short run and must be combined with economic analysis. Solve Thompson. And 3, those who turn their backs on economics and reliance on ethical intuition to diagnose environmental problems are like the potential student to failure. Although these economic explanations for environmental problems are not universal truths, they do enjoy robust applicability. Economic explanations point to a vastly different approach to solve environmental problems that focus on environmental ethics would suggest that even if ethics played a more powerful role, we do not know how certain how to create or strengthen environmental norms, although environmental rules should continue trying to promote environmental ethics. Economic analysis currently provides a strong tool for diagnosing and thus having to resolve environmental problems. Additionally, the Gildor evidence only says that economic analysis is bad because it's empirically used as a justification to stop political action, which proves that their author votes affirmative and affirming lives, access rights, the biosphere, the impact of extinction, learn to Nietzsche. Or just all to embrace life inertia and create serious problems for us environmental position for precisely life as it is now the current over-exploitation natures of problem. How can one say yes to a world in which none of the things that Nietzsche allegedly values are reality? In an age of ecological crisis, Nietzsche's RMRVT seems to amount to collectively affirming the will, the power and drive of techno, Armageddon, and a moderation affirms life, the excess of consumption causes destruction, dormance, and through another value, the positive consequences of moderation, self-control, frugality, and the escalating consumption levels are hard to reconcile with any vision of environmental protection, and endless consumption far from providing satisfying severe to happy fulfilling life for those who adopt frugality can provide considerable personal satisfaction in life. 1, can encourage environmentally responsible behavior and anti-management results in mass extinction. So, 95 minutes contain the idea that nature is self-regulating, capable of caring for itself as notion leads to benign neglect. Nature will do fine. Human beings just let it be alone. A century ago, a hands-on policy was the best policy. Now it is not, given nature's current fragment to the stress condition. Neglect will result in accelerating deterioration. Once people create large gaps and force isolate and disturb habitats, loot or exploit the vital in many ecosystems, compromise resiliency, dissipates and diversity, can collapse and mistakes its balance and guide. Are dangerous models when applied at the wrong spatial and temporal scales. And until humans are able to control their numbers and technologies, management is the only viable alternative to massive attrition of living nature and individualized synthetic changes will alter societal behaviors. Legal mandates are necessary to overcome collective action problems. Dormants and 3 lemons persist even if we develop a very consensus on societal values. Environmental problems are typically collective action problems that cannot be resolved without the concerted action of a large number of persons. Individual action is futile. Persons who hold environmentally protected values are likely not to get act on these values without assurances that others will suit. Legal mandates can provide confidence that environmentally protected action will not be futile and others will bear their fair share of the burden. And management's inevitable. It's only a question of what kind of intervention is used. Past intervention will result in extinction unless it's actively reverse levy. And 99, we are unable to simply leave the environment as it is. There's a real pressing need for more and more accurate technical and scientific information about the non-human world. We're faced with a situation which the process we have already set and trained will continue to impact upon the world, and therefore it's all for centuries necessary to develop real concrete proposals for action to reverse or at least limit the effects of our previous interventions. Our behavior towards the non-human can not simply be a matter of leaving it as is. If we simply preserve what remains, we also preserve patterns of very unequal access to the reservoirs to their constellations. In fact, we risk exacerbating these inequalities. It is in the facing consequence of our intervention in the non-human world that the fate of our species and those whom we stand on the planet will be decided. We also control the uniqueness of this because they can see the environmental collapse and status quo. It's tried after the affirmative, and the alternative locks in a delay that makes action too late. They have to wait until a better approach comes in. Without immediate action, environmental extinction is inevitable. Rajalan and says the Earth is going through the worst ever ecological crisis. Dialects of nature and development has reached an explosive point. Very little time is left. We must act immediately. Our planet is going to face major and decisive ecological crises, upheavals within a decade. Well, we will be fighting for our biological existence. Science and scientists have been becoming moved to the forefront of humanity. We must immediately to prevent the Earth from becoming a giant scrap heap. And their evidence about various environmental management of the past are not true. The future approaches we have new information processing capabilities allow us to ensure environmental sustainability. Lions and 7 often will intended by environmental improvement strategies fail or result in unintended consequences because the problem and proposed solutions will not fully objectively measure and analyze with scientific research and capabilities growing dramatically. We're in a unique position to steer future development in the direction of effective environmental improvement and human health protection. We must act immediately, decisively, boldly by addressing environmental issues with a multiple disciplinary technical approach. We can prevent waste and unwanted side effects and provide opportunities to optimize environmental improvements.
All right, your Anil, Rajan, Wally evidence, this being the one that makes the argument that we have to act now. Sure. This piece of evidence is 4 sentences long. I'll read all 4 of them aloud if you'd like, but I'd like for you to isolate for me the part of this piece of evidence that you think is the warrant.
Okay, you want to read? You want me to read out loud? The Earth is going through a worst ever ecological crisis.
No, wait. I just want you to read the warrant.
Oh, the warrant. Our planet is going to face major decisive... dialectics of nature and development has reached an explosive point. Very little time is left. We must act immediately. Our planet is going to face major and decisive ecological crises, upheavals within a decade.
A claim.
Yeah. Well, this is documented. You don't have a counterclaim. You've conceded the inevitable collapse in the status quo.
It is documented by Anil Rajimwali from the New Delhi Sunrise.
9 minutes of
he being, I'm sure, a very qualified expert.
The Delhi border is clearly keeping up with current.
What is life's excess?
Life's excess. Our evidence indicates if we overconsume it, takes us to life excess, means we can't enjoy life anymore.
If we overconsume
that evidence indicates things like overpopulation, overconsumption, are enjoying life's excess.
2AC, I want to look for those Nietzsche answers that you read. No, toward the bottom.
Are we going to read this part out loud too?
No. This piece of evidence, this is about Nietzsche urging us to embrace an excess of life.
Yes.
I don't know why we're Nietzsche, and I don't know what an excess of life is. Either of those two?
Yeah, our evidence indicates that the current status quo consumption rates of doing nothing, of continually consuming means it will eventually result in extinction.
Mm-hmm.
The AF solves extinction. You say we lead to environmental destruction.
Life's excess.
This evidence just says, it's talking about Nietzsche, you're right, but it says when we overconsume, it leads to extinction. The affirmative solves
extinction. Okay, so you just say overconsumption is life's excess.
Sure. Life's excess is kind of.
So then this isn't like a DA to the alt, like the alt equal affirm life's excess. It's just like a status quo.
Doing nothing.
This is just like another card that says that the status quo will.
Your alternative would allow this.
What is the utility of this piece of evidence? It says that Nietzsche urges us to embrace all life, but this causes problems for an environmentalist position because of the overexploitation of nature. Yeah. What's the utility of it? Is it just another piece of evidence that says that shit's going to happen? That shit's going to happen.
The alternative does not solve.
Whoa. Well, how is this a DA to our alternative? This is about Nietzsche urging us to affirm the excess of life.
Multiple pieces of evidence indicate that your alternative would let overconsumption continue. This piece of evidence impacts that with.
Okay, so this is just another status quo lead to extinction.
You see Nietzsche and light bulbs go off in your head. It has nothing to do with Nietzsche.
No, we say cave and light bulbs go off in your head. What does this piece of evidence have to do with our all?
Okay, take some.
Or is this just another? Or are you just?
Alternative doesn't solve overconsumption. Overconsumption bad. AF solves.
So then this is just another piece of evidence that says something's akin to the status quo will lead to extinction, and the alt doesn't do anything.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with Nietzsche or life's excess.
Nietzsche's relevant. It does talk about Nietzsche relevant to this debate.
Okay.
Let's identify.
The Nietzsche stuff.
Smoking? Yeah. I've smoked a pack of cigarettes today.